Hi Daniel, my name's Guy Elson. This is a quick demonstration of the thread rig, a rig which I've developed recently for finesse lure fishing, soft plastic fishing, which I wanted to show you and see if you guys are interested in. I was given your details from Alex from your company. My history, I used to have my own fishing show on the Discovery Channel called Rod and a Rucksack. That was back in 2014. Subsequently, I have a small YouTube channel in the UK which concentrates on BFS lure fishing and light lure fishing. And this idea stemmed from a reaction to some of the lures which are out, some of the rigs which are out there at the moment. I felt that, you know, we're using very, very big hooks for smaller fish. So I was looking at how we could sort of ramp that back, and also I was looking to see if we could get extra movement into your lures, because a lot of the lures have a metal pin going through the main body of your lures, so you don't get that natural sort of movement which is there. And so I was trying to think how you could do that. And so I do a bit of carp fishing as well. I used to do a lot of carp fishing back in the UK. And so I've taken some elements from other types of fishing, and I've come up with this idea. So I'm using much heavier line than I would normally do. I'm just doing this so you can actually see it, but I've tested this with 5 pound fluorocarbon line, and it works really well. So the idea is, first of all, you come to your lure. I'm using one of your crawl baits, and you find where you want your hook to go. So let's say about here, and this is the thread part of it. So this is a baiting needle which is used in carp fishing in the UK. So it's got a little hook on the end and a latch which can go across like that. But basically I thread this through your lure, as so, and come out the other end like that, so I know exactly where it's going to go. I used the name thread rig because I thought it was sort of in line with some of the other names of the rigs which are out there, so it would have the same kind of tone. So thread rig, Ned rig, Cheb rig, they sort of sounds like it lives in the same world. So we've got that through first of all. Now I don't know if you have these in the US, but these are little float stops, ledger stops. So you can put these, you can basically just thread this through here like that, and then I can just thread a couple of these ledger stops on. As so, and we'll get back to those in a minute, but basically those are ledger stops there. Okay, right, first things first. Right, so I'm going to do an overhanded loop knot, and the idea is the knot part of that will sit within the body of the actual lure or the soft plastic, and that will be a bit of an anchor, so it'll grab hold of the soft plastic and hold it in place a little bit. It'll be a placeholder. So beauty obviously of an overhanded loop knot is it's a very strong knot as well, but it also means that we can change the hook out. So this was another element of what I was doing. Sorry, I've made that too small. This was another element of this rig. I wanted to be able to keep it so we could change hooks, and we could change, if we wanted to, weights. So there we go. Got that in place. Let's just give that a bit of a pull tight. Okay, so this is much heavier line than I would use. Again, this is purely just so you can see it really on the video. So we'll trim that off. Okay, there we go. So we've got the loop. Now we can just thread this through, so we can drop the latch on this, essentially. So now that's in, and we just thread it straight through. And what you get is this basically coming through here like that. So we got that in position. Done a really bad knot there. Now you use a hook which has basically got 2 pins. So this is a stinger hook, essentially. We can use the loop to just come through here, and then we can just loop it over the whole thing. It's a little bit fiddly because when you're using lighter line it will all go through, but that actual knot will go through the eye. But essentially we're doing, so sorry, this is a bit fiddly. So you can see there that that's looped on like that, so it holds it in place. Now you can pull this back. Now before I push this in, one thing which I was thinking as well is you could also, if you wanted to fish this weedlessly, you could also get a couple of bits of rubber, just impale them on that, feed them through the eye here, and they could just go over the top of these like a little bit of skirting, or you could use a little bit of wire, just a really light bit of wire, to create a little weed guard on there. But that's that's an extra section to it. I'm not going to do that on this. So we just pull this, oh god, I'm getting hooked up on here. Pull this right back into position as so, like that. And then push these pins right through. You've got to get them right through on yours, because you've got this very soft, so it's actually got to pop through. But once it pops through, it stays in place. And that's that, as so. And what it looks like from below is like that. So you kind of got your hooks here. Right, next thing. So we got that like that, and because obviously your lures float, it sits up, but the hooks are kind of masked, and it kind of looks a little bit like their antenna underneath there as well. So it kind of really works with it. These are size 6 hooks. Obviously you just scale things up, and also depending on the type, so it's possible to get these as a single hook as well, and I think that might work on some of your larger baits. Now we take the first float stop and we just run it down to the back there like that, and that's to stop the weight which I'm going to put on here from bashing this up the line, so it acts as a sort of backstop for it. Right, so the next thing, now this in its own right I think is got a lot of value, and I think you know I've never seen this, and I might be wrong, this might exist, but as far as I know there are not I've never seen interchangeable Texas rigs. Well, this exists in carp fishing, and I don't understand how it's been missed, because the ability to be able to change Texas weights would be on the fly. I can't see how that wouldn't take on and be really valuable. So this is sort of in its own right a kind of an element which I thought would be extremely valuable to you guys. Obviously, I'm giving this idea away to you, so I hope you recognise that this was an idea which did stem from me. But what you do is essentially you put this through. So there's basically there's a slit in the plastic, so that goes through like that, and then you've kind of got a weight like this which has also got a slit, so that can just go up through here. And you know, I thought that you could call these quick change bullets, and that just goes on like that, as so. And then you just affix that down like that, and that's it. And what it does in the water, it sits up naturally. It's got all the movement, all the natural movement that you'd get with the soft plastic without having all of that metal in the middle. So it just has a much more natural feel to it, and you're not using these huge hooks, which doesn't feel very finesse to me. So this would definitely be something for much more pressurized waters. It would be very good for European fishing, for perch fishing, for zander fishing, but I do think it's also got its own place in the bass market. I think where you've got waters which are heavily pressurized, you know, ramping everything down like this could be amazing, really, I'd like to think. Now the other beauty of this as well, and I've started to sort of think about how you could sort of adapt this, is I thought what you could do is potentially for some of the bigger baits, I thought you could potentially have a little screw which goes over, so essentially it'd be like a spring which goes over this and just holds it in place. If some of the bigger baits do move around, I've not had a problem with them moving around, but that could hold it in place. You could have this as a tungsten bead which would hold it there, and then you could quickly unclip this, pull it to the other side of here, and you've suddenly got yourself a Carolina rig. And I thought, you know, there's a lot of versatility in that kind of thing as well. So if you wanted to quickly just adapt it out, you'd have to have a tungsten bead which was heavy enough to pin that down, but suddenly you've got all of the sort of like flexibility of a Carolina rig as well, which again, it's just sort of giving your fishermen options of being able to change the weights here quickly, whether or turn it from a Texas to a Carolina rig, or and ramping back on hooks and changing hook sizes quite quickly. So that was it basically. I hope you like the idea, but I thought, you know, this one seemed like a good enough one. I was actually going to put it up on my channel, and then I thought, oh, you know what, this probably will be copied, and I really like your stuff. I like Z-Man stuff. I really rate it, and I thought, well, you know, maybe you guys would be interested in it. So there you go. That is the thread rig. I'll put a couple of bits of footage in here as well, which show you what it's like underwater. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye bye.